Hi, Ruth Feldman. You are a professor at Reichman University in Tel Aviv and at Yale Study Center for Development. You are an expert in the resilience, especially children. Could you tell us why finally we took this notion, why do you think we took the notion of resilience and that it sort of has grown in our field? There have been so many ideas, so many terminologies. Why do you think this one really has bloomed so much in our field specifically?
Right, so I think we go back to post-World War II thinking, which was really focused on psychopathology. So our field was really into defining, addressing, quantifying mental illness, mental disorder, could be in order to demarcate our field and make it different from general medicine, or could be for other reason, or could be because there were so many refugees and immigrants and trauma. And over the last 50, 60, 70 years, the field was characterized by a very heavy focus on psychopathology, on the diagnosis of mental disorders, a nosological approach. And I think little by little, clinicians realize that it's not sufficient, that the heavy focus on psychopathology should be complemented by a more positive view, and especially when we come to children, young children, infants, children, and adolescent, it has to take development into perspective. It has to focus on social behavior and social adaptation, and it has to focus on relationships and how relationship can foster well-being and functioning. And I believe that over the past decade, the focus has shifted in child and adolescent psychiatry from focus on mental disorders to a focus on adaptation, functioning, and resilience. And the question then becomes, what underpins resilience, how it is expressed, and how to promote it.
So what do you think is special about your model of resilience?
So I think the construct of resilience, very interestingly speaking, because resilience is actually one of the core concepts in our field, was always defined on the negation. It didn't have a positive definition. Like, we had a trauma, some children developed mental disorder or post-trauma or depression, and others did not. So what was the definition of resilience? Those who went through trauma and did not develop psychopathology or traumatic stress. So this is a definition of resilience that, in my opinion, is not sufficient for science. You can put it as a basis for research. Our approach says that resilience is built on the biology of bonding. If we take mammals that are born with bonds that mature in the context of the mother's body and caregiving behavior, we know that from extensive research of the past 4 or 5 decades, that all systems that support resilience mature in mammals in the context of early caregiving. So this biology or biobehavioral complex, including synchrony, that supports maternal-infant bonding, this is in fact the context that we propose should be guiding us when we look for resilience.
So you talked about synchrony, and which is a way to characterize or qualify the quality of the bonding between a mother and a child, or even more complex synchrony, I can imagine. Can you quickly explain the concept, the construct?
Synchrony, in fact, is a mechanism. The mechanism is called biobehavioral synchrony. And children, when they're first born, they open their eyes to the social world. And those nonverbal behaviors where mother and child match their nonverbal cues, they look at each other's eyes, they laugh together, a mother provides affectionate touch to soothe the child. Those behaviors we found are associated with a coupled biology, meaning that during moments when mother and child, mother and infant are synchronizing their behavior, they're all also synchronizing their biological system. They have a coordinated oxytocin response, they have a matched heartbeat, and there is brain-to-brain synchrony in keynotes of their social brain. In fact, biobehavioral synchrony is a behavior-based mechanism by which the mature brain, the mother's mature brain, externally regulates the infant's immature brain and tunes the infant brain to social life. And this is why synchrony is such a fundamental and critical mechanism in all mammals, and specifically in humans. And in humans, this mechanism of synchrony develops along three lines, three continua in the mother-infant relationship from infancy to adulthood. It becomes more complex, it becomes more mutual, it becomes more autonomous as children grow, until mother and child form a mother-adolescent or mother-adult-child relationship. But then this same mechanism of biobehavioral synchrony transferred to other close relationship with father, with siblings, with best friends, with mentors, with loved ones, with romantic partners, even with therapists, until the arc goes full, and then children become parents, and the cross-generation transmission of the synchrony to their own children. And then there is a third line of development of synchrony from the intimacy of the mother-infant bond to life within social group. So this systems that are maturing in the context of the mother-infant synchrony, these are the systems that enable children to have social competencies in the group. Be empathic, collaborate, share, regulate their affect, enjoy being a leader but also a follower in social group. Learn the rules of conduct, how to manage conflict, how to suppress aggression. So this is why synchrony that occurs between mother and infant in the key period, in the sensitive period for the maturation of the social brain, really stamps the child's social brain and it tunes it to the social world to be able to develop social competencies.
So you talk about sensitive window, and we understand that this is a very early on period. So I have two questions here. How early is early? How far does it extend? And if the sensitive period is closed, is there any thought, any attempt to rescue it? I can imagine, for example, that not all children were able to benefit, for example, for enhancing approaches that would reset or reinstall more synchrony. So if you miss that and you are 6 or 7, what can be done for you?
Right. So sensitive period, or what used to be called critical period in animal models, is a very, very controversial issue in humans, because we know that what happens early in brain maturation matters, but we also know that the human brain is so complex and so plastic, and plasticity goes until old age, that a critical period in the mechanistic sense, like we have in animal model, doesn't apply to humans. So to your first question, how early is early? We're talking about the first 9 months of life. That's the sensitive period, the period in which human infants should experience synchronous caregiving, preferably from their mother and their father, and if not, at least from one of them, or from an attuned and stable caregiver. And this is before the first reorganization of the prefrontal cortex and the onset of language. So it's very interesting that human sociality begins with nonverbal coordination, and then it goes to language and other mental abilities. So this actually is the foundation for our social life. Now the question is, so if there is a possibility to target intervention to that period, it would be better, because during a critical period from the maturation of skill, even a small intervention goes a long way, which means that once the window closes, there is plasticity, but the intervention would have to be longer, more extensive, and the reparation may be more partial. But what we know from the neurobiology of attachment, from our research, is during the time we form a close affiliative bond is the time where all these systems reopen. Okay? And I think this is why therapy takes place in the context of a relationship between a therapist and a patient, because this close and secure relationship has the possibility to reopen all these systems that support attachment and perhaps provide, during that period of plasticity, some of the missing components.
Ruth, this is fascinating, and so we are very lucky to have you at the next ESCAP Congress in Copenhagen in June of 2023, and we will get much more details about your research and also some workshops. Thank you so much, Ruth, and looking to see you there.
Looking forward. Bye.